Welcome, everybody, to Inside Boxing Weekly. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome in my co-host, Jeremiah Preisser. How you doing, Jeremiah?
I am doing very well, Mike. I'm always doing really well, especially when I'm on the show. I want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in week after week. Let's talk some boxing.
Yeah, I know any time that you hear my voice, it perks you right up.
Oh, always. I mean, when I'm feeling down, when I've got a cold, I actually call you and just try to drag on a conversation for as long as I can while taking vitamin C, and that's pretty much the end-all, be-all cures for all my woes.
Yeah, I got a lot of people to call me so I can cure their flu. But we've got, as everybody knows, we do our normal Inside Boxing Weekly show where we preview and review all the fights coming up in the past week. We'll do that show later on today, so you can catch that on thegrillingtruth.net. But we had the opportunity to have somebody on today that we haven't done any female boxers before, but I actually watched a little video on YouTube, and then Christopher Benedict wrote an article about her, which did really well view-wise on the amount of people that read it. So I want to welcome to the show Heather the Heat Hardy. How you doing, Heather?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you?
Oh, we're doing great. And, you know, other than both my kids do have the flu, so that obviously I don't help that much. But what the hell? They're a lot calmer now. But congratulations on your recent victory. I know you were on the undercard of a PBC fight a couple weeks ago. You beat Adina Kiss. It was a clear-cut decision win in your favor. How are you feeling since the win?
Oh, I'm feeling great. It was a little disappointing. They had me box first, so I went out there before they even opened up the doors. But other than that, performance-wise, it's a good, comfortable.
Yeah, weren't you originally slated to be higher up on the card? Is that how it works? Because from what Chris told me, it was like you thought you were higher up, but they kind of changed the schedule around on you, and then you kind of had to scramble to find, to tell your people, like, hey, get in here, get your butt in the seats and watch me.
Yeah, it was super disappointing. I mean, I'm 19-0. I was going for my 18th win. I was doing a championship defense, and to me, it was just thinking I was going to box first. I mean, those days are over. I proved myself. I've been up on that press conference 8 different times. I didn't even think that this would be an issue. And then come weigh-in, when I asked what number I was up, because they were weighing me in late, and I was weighing in like 9th. And usually I weigh in after the main event. So I thought, well, if this is indicative of the lineup, I should find out, like, what's going on. And they had told me you can either box first or you can box 11th. And 11th would have meant 5 fights after the main event. And I had sold $40,000 in tickets myself, which is like me telling over 200 people, sorry, guys, you have to stay in the stadium until 2 a.m. Just seems so unfair. So I thought, all right, well, the main event starts around 9 o'clock, so I'm going to tell them I'll box first. I didn't know I didn't know that meant before doors opened. So it's quite a disappointment.
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, well, was it any disappointment that your original opponent was supposed to be someone else as well? Helen Joseph, I believe.
Yeah, I really didn't mind so much, like after training for MMA for 8 weeks and kind of having to put together like all the different sports and then getting in the ring and figuring it out with different opponents, when I realized that they're going to just be boxing, she only got 2 hands, I really don't care who you put in front of me.
Yeah, and you talked about that. You were gearing up for an MMA match because of the laws recently enacted by the New York State Athletic Commission. A lot of people were afraid that the laws would kill boxing. Thankfully, It didn't, but I take it that was your concern as well?
It was my concern. I had already been doing some MMA, though, because the truth is, and I'm sure you guys are boxing guys, like women don't get a lot of respect in the boxing community. As you can see, at 19-0, and I'm boxing first on the card. So we don't get a lot of respect, and we don't get a lot of money. The promoters and the TV networks are really slow coming around. And don't get me wrong, this year has been fantastic for women's boxing. Since my fight was televised, we've had 3 other girls on TV. Clarissa Shields just headlining a card. So things are going up, but for about a year now, I've been a little bit worried that I'm 35 and I might not be able to see the rewards of female boxing make an appearance in my lifetime. So while I still got fight years in me, I got to try to make some money.
Right, yeah. No, I think oh, no, go ahead.
No, that's why I had considered doing MMA alongside boxing, just so I can make some money. They give the girls respect and chances and opportunities over there that women's boxing hasn't seen yet.
Right, yeah, and I think part of that is not only Clarissa Shields, and her, back-to-back Olympic gold medals, but also in Ireland, they have Katie Taylor, who is a big amateur.
Yep.
She just fought recently and did, hers was televised. And I think the Katie Taylors and Clarissa Shields of the world, combined with what the UFC has been able to do with women, especially like the Ronda Rousey, even though she's lost, she's still big business. And then you have Holly Holm, and they keep introducing new classes to the women. So I certainly see what you're saying there. Is would you still be willing to do MMA?
Oh, sure. I trained so hard for my last fight, and the girl pulled out like the night before I was supposed to fly into Kansas City. So I have been through the most brutal training camp, and I can't, like, as the type of person I am, I can't not do a fight. So I'm definitely going to do at least one, definitely.
All right, now your background is kickboxing, much like Holly Holm. She was a successful boxer also. What made you pick up the sport full time?
Boxing? Well, there are even less opportunities for female kickboxers. And just coming up through the amateurs, I was fighting girls 2 and 3 and 4 times because, there just aren't enough of them. And when I went over to Gleasons to work on my hands and, see if I could get my boxing better, I realized, like, wait a minute, if I win this next tournament, they're going to send me to Lake Placid and let me box there. And then I went and won. And then I thought, they're going to send me to Colorado Springs if I win here. And then I won there. So there were so many more chances for me to travel and see different things and accomplish other things in boxing that aren't there for kickboxers.
Right. Well, that's really cool. Want to go off a little bit, but I'm a Colorado native. I wanted to ask what your experience was in Colorado Springs. How did you enjoy that? What was your experience like?
Oh, my gosh, it was the first time I ever saw a mountain, like a real mountain. And I had won regionals up at Lake Placid, and they flew me there for free. I was like 30 years old, going to the national tournament. First time I had ever run in the mountains. And been even in the West Coast, the first time in my life I was ever on the West Coast. And I was there, and I beat up 5 girls, and I became the national champion at 125 pounds. And I was boxing only 11 months. I only had a career 11 months in boxing. I was already ranked number 1 in the country.
All right, now you're one of the highest rated in your division. I think everybody who follows women's boxing knows about you and Shelley Vincent. You guys got a nice rivalry going on. It's made easy by the fact that the two of you are in close proximity to one another. Can you give us a little background on this rivalry, and what do you remember of your fight with her?
Oh, sure. It all started like when I first started boxing. I promised, like, my coach, I took it as like a challenge. Somebody done told me, you don't want to do this for a living, you'll never get anywhere with it. And I thought, all right, let's see what happens. So, like, my first 5 fights, I gotten so much publicity, just making phone calls and being places and showing up and doing free stuff and public speaking and whatever I could do to drum up some kind of media attention. I was getting it. And the girls were all talking like, oh, Heather this and Heather that, and oh, only because she's cute and nobody cares and blah, blah, blah. So this girl had come down from New England who I think I maybe had 5 fights, and she maybe was close to like her 8th or 9th or maybe 10th, and was a little hot and heated because I was getting attention and nobody really gave a shit about her. So she done come to my fights and was calling me out ringside. And at first I thought it was just for attention for the cameras, So I would be in the ring with Steve Farhood at Roseland Ballroom, and she would be cursing me out in the front row. And it just became like an exciting little media thing. And I never thought nothing of it. I thought it was just boxing is boxing. And as the fights went on, she kept showing up to him. And then one of the fights at Roseland, I was like, I have a 12-year-old, and I was like holding my nephew, who was like my son at the time, and my daughter was holding my hand, and I was walking him out to the car, and she approached me when I was with my kids, and I was like, yo, there are no cameras here, but, you know, like, chill out, I'm with my kids. And she was there screaming and cursing, and I think in hindsight she might have just been trying to get the fans going, but to me, as a mother, man, if I could have killed her right there, I would have did it. And that was when I said to her, you know, you thought you had problems before? Now I don't like you. Now I don't like you. So I had my daughter crying, my mom's freaking out. And that became when the rivalry really got heated, you know. And she was using social media to trash me. And it was a big build-up, you know. We were 2 undefeated fighters. And as far as my promoter was concerned, if there was ever going to be a bout you could sell to women's boxing for TV, it would be this one. You know, we had like the Yankees-Boston rivalry going on, and it was like there was so many tangibles into why this fight should be on TV, and Al Heyman finally said, fine, let's do it. And in August, he put us on, and I remember she tried to intimidate me. You know, she was very vocal. She had the mask on, trying to stare me down. Her team was all like surrounding me with their videos on their phones and, you know, just being real obnoxious. But I don't think she really respected that I'm a fighter, you know. I might be like a little Barbie doll when you look at me, but I'm a fighter. There ain't no bitch at 5'3" with 2 hands that's going to show me something I ain't seen already. So I didn't have too much respect for her. And it was a good fight, but, you know, not the hardest fight I ever had, not the closest fight I ever had. But I beat the girl, and that's what I set out to do, just shut her up, and I ain't heard a peep from her.
Yeah, well, she seems to be, however, saying on her Facebook page that a rematch between you and her is in the works for Long Island. Is there any truth to that?
She's an asshole because things are being spoken about by our promoter, and he told us to shut up. So she don't listen too good, I guess. I'm really not supposed to say, but, I mean, it's no surprise. Like, the fans want to see a rematch. Everybody wants to see a rematch. It was a good fight, a balls-to-the-wall fight. Neither one of us, you know, there was none of that boxing where you see 2 people who are afraid to do nothing. You know, you see all them big fights. Like, we went all in for that fight. So, of course, there'll be a rematch. But, you know, I told my promoter, like, I won that fight. Don't think I'm traveling out there. I don't have to go nowhere. She want to fight me, she come right on back and fight me. But I want to get paid this time because we didn't really get paid last time. I want to get paid this time. So there are talks about it.
All right, so what do you think you can do next time to win an even clearer decision or to maybe knock her out?
Yeah, we're going for the stop this time. I already got a very clear decision. Some of them people that was talking about a close fight was just crazy to me, you know. Like, I think at best that I might have given her 2 rounds. I might have taken 2 rounds off in that fight. But that was an easy decision. And me and the team already talked about it. Like, I'm not going to feel victorious once I stop this girl. And I've done so much work since that last fight. I don't see she make it past 5.
Yeah, well, hopefully PBC decides to air it again. Seeing as you have a portion of the WBC title, is a short-term goal Jelena Majanovic?
That's my goal. I want that WBC green belt. I do. And right now the trouble is Jelena is making a lot of money up in Canada. Because in Canada, they televise the fights. She's on Showtime up there. You know, she's doing her thing. And she's making money. And she's like, yo, I ain't coming down to America to fight for a title when y'all ain't going to pay me. And how could you blame her, you know?
Right.
So the way I see it is if I'm going to go up to Canada, we got to make sure I could stop her too. I ain't looking to go up there for no decision. And I never was one to jump the gun and say I could beat up everybody. Jelena is one of the most talented fighters out there. So by no means am I saying, I'm coming to get you. But, of course, she holds the belt that I want. So that is where my sights are set.
All right. I noticed you've been guided by Lou DiBella and trained out of Gleasons Gym. Both DiBella and Gleasons are well-known in boxing circles. How has it been associating with those 2?
Well, Lou has given me the opportunity to fight in some of the best venues in New York City. And that's why I'm the first lady of Brooklyn boxing, you know. I got real popular here. I took the platforms and the stages he gave me, and I made the most out of them. And I think that's the most important thing I could say to anybody. Like, I got chances, but I made the most of them and made sure that I got more chances and bigger chances, which is why I was out at the Barclays Center. You know, I was the first girl to box there, and had I not been successful on the other stages, I never would have got that far. So I like to think, like, as much as he gave me opportunities, I earned where I am, you know. And to be at Gleasons Gym, when I wanted to box, I knew there wasn't a gym in the whole world that I should be at, because you get all your inspiration there. And what's so nice about Gleasons is there are like 6 or 7 world champions at Gleasons right now, and they're all women. So I have so much to look up to and to aspire to and to train with and to, you know, be pushed by. That is, it's really the best place in the world for a female fighter.
That's excellent. Yeah, that's excellent to hear. And you know, one last question. We want to ask what you do when you're not training. You know, what sort of interests do you have? What sort of hobbies do you pursue?
I'm a fat girl. If I'm not in training camp.
So is Jeremiah, so don't worry about it, Heather.
Yeah.
I really am. Like, people are like, what are your hobbies? I like to drink wine and eat good food. So, like, I'm in New York City, you know, it's like all the best kinds of food are here. And when I'm training is like so much sacrifice. You know, you can't drink wine, you can't eat this, you can't do that. And I'm just like, man, give me 2 weeks not training and I'll get so fat.
So my final question would be this. In the past, there's been women boxers that have been successful, the Christy Martins, the Layla Ali's, even Mia St. John had some success, but then it kind of petered out when they were done. I think the quality of women's boxing right now is higher than it's ever been. What do you think needs to be done to be able to bring women to the forefront in boxing?
Well, I always use Ronda Rousey as an example because she really did kind of break through the barrier of, you know, that old saying like nobody wants to see women fight. She showed the world everybody wants to see women fight. You know, now, like you said at the beginning of the show, there's not enough weight classes in the UFC. They're trying to make more weight classes. They even called me to see if I would fight, you know, MMA at 125 because they're looking to do another division. They're trying to find talent. And what happened with Ronda Rousey is Dana White had a huge pay-per-view show, and he was expecting millions of buys. And he goes, you know what? He put Ronda Rousey on as the co-main event when he knew that everybody on the planet was tuning in, and he took a chance. He said, they're either going to love me or they're going to hate me. And they loved her. She was put on stage in front of so many people on the biggest show, expecting all the ratings, and everyone loved her. And that didn't just open the door for Ronda Rousey, which is what women's boxing did when they had Layla Ali and Christy Martin. They only let one girl in at a time. But Dana White said, let me try somebody else. Let me try somebody else. And then you have all these popular featherweights and strawweights in MMA. Like, you can name probably 10 MMA girls who are successful, making money, getting advertisements, doing so well because Dana White just kept introducing more of them. Whereas boxing, maybe we'll introduce one at a time. And if we're lucky, we'll be on some Fox Sports 38, you know, after the main event at 12 p.m., like midnight, and nobody will really be watching it. And then they'll say, well, there weren't any ratings, you know. Tell me why they didn't put Heather Hardy as the co-main event for Garcia and Thurman when 5.5 million people were watching. Do you think all those boxing fans would have turned off their television? Or do you think they would have finally been introduced to the female side of the sport? Nobody is taking that chance with the women. And I'm sorry I talk a lot.
Well, that's all right because it's an interview show. So if you didn't, it wouldn't be a very good show.
I don't shut up.
And I'll tell you, it's like the Katie Taylor thing. I mean, Katie was the co-main event over in England before Hayam Bellew. She fought after the Malignaggi fight. So actually, over there they did do it right, but over there they do it right with boxing all the time, which is why it's so popular.
I know, and it's the same thing, like I said, with the girl in Canada. She doesn't want to come here because she's making money. The girls in Mexico, they don't want to come here because they're making money. They're headlining shows. They're on television. They get endorsements, commercials. They get treated like professional athletes. I've never been treated like a professional athlete. Never. I still work a full-time job, you know. I still struggle to pay my bills. I still need an Uber. I don't have a car outside to bring me and my daughter to school. I'm still hailing cabs, you know. I'm not treated like a professional athlete. And that's sad.
Well, like I said, anybody that wants to read it, Christopher Benedict wrote an article about you about 2 weeks ago. You can go to gruelingtruth.net. I know you have a history with Chris, and I know Chris is listening in. Is there anything you want to say to him?
Oh, thanks, Chris. It's guys like you and people like putting on this show and stuff that's really gotten us the exposure that we need. I can honestly say that without all the interviews and things by the media, so many people wouldn't know how I am. So I'm so grateful that for all of you guys who've taken an interest when people like the promoters and the networks haven't. So thank you.
Well, I mean, the next time you fight, let us know. We'll have you on a couple weeks before, and then whoever's ass you whip, we'll have you on a week or two after to talk about that if you want, because you're always more than welcome on this show, Heather.
Would love that. Thank you.
All right. Jeremiah, any final words?
No final words. Just, you know, I'm always happy to have a good guest on the show, and you've certainly been that, Heather. Again, we appreciate you taking the time to, you know, just sit down and chat with us. And I honestly think that, you know, after listening to this, more people will have an interest in women's boxing.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I think definitely if you have a rematch with Shelley Vincent, we should have you both on the air at the same time, because I think that could be entertaining, Jeremiah.
Yeah, she's quite a character.
But, all right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Once again, we want to thank Heather the Heat Hardy for coming on the show. Make sure you check her out. I know you can find videos on YouTube. Very talented boxer, whether she's a male or a female. She has talent. She needs to be recognized. And as she would say, she needs to be paid. Everybody, make sure you check us out on thegruelingtruth.net. You can check out all of our boxing articles, football articles, all the podcasts. Make sure you check out me and Jeremiah on our Inside Boxing weekly, normal show, regular show all the time. Also, we just had a conversation with K9 Bunridge earlier today, he's going to bring his K9 boxing show to the Grueling Truth Network too, so you want to be looking out for that over the next week or two. So for Heather the Heat Hardy, Jeremiah Preisser, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.